Breaking. I've never done a YouTube live.
That is rather.
Yeah. Okay, we are currently
Okay.
live.
Thank you.
If you wanna, I'm checking it on another computer. I have two YouTube chat tabs
Okay.
open.
You'll have to prep me if the screen needs to change shape or tilt it or whatever if I need to.
Okay. This is very interesting. Okay, so we'll just wait a bit. We'll wait for a few users to log on, to sign in.
Yeah.
Give it 5 more minutes and then we'll start.
Okay.
Okay, so we are live, and people can hear us.
All right.
Okay, my hawker says they can hear both of us, so this is very interesting.
Oh.
Yeah. We're basically on TV now.
Oh, lovely. That's all I wanted to do in my life. A little disturbing, but that's fine.
Well, I could never talk in front of a camera, so this is quite an interesting experience.
Yeah. I tell you the thing is, I can't see anybody's face, and that's a little disturbing.
Yeah.
Because I'm literally staring at a screen, but I will try it and let's see how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it's all good.
I think we're ready for a very informative chat.
Hope so.
Okay. I made this jersey especially for the live session.
Oh, fabulous, but I can't even see your picture.
Oh, you'll have to log on to the YouTube.
Oh, separately. Yeah, but I don't want to go with the... No, I'll leave that for now, because I want to get confused. Maybe next time.
This is very cool. I'm very impressed. Okay, we'll give it 3 more minutes and then we'll start.
I'm happy to give them some time to get on, because it's obviously a new first thing.
Yeah, I think this is the first time Aurora has done a live YouTube video, to be honest. So it's reaching new heights.
You know, I believe that it's possible to do the truth, so it's really great.
Yeah. Quarantine has taught us things.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, I think somebody had a meeting this morning, and I did it on Google Meet. I'm so busy with Zoom, and so I have never even knew about Google Meet, so learning new things.
I feel like there's a lot of different software coming out now and different platforms that people haven't been using in the past that they can use now. For example, I know I've had Microsoft Teams because of the university for quite a while, but this due to lockdown, we've used it so much, and you become so comfortable with it. It's actually insane.
So the Google Teams it's not as easy just to run through as Zoom was, and I think that's why people like Zoom more, although it's not as safe. So I think people need to. It's necessary for a bit of training, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We have 7 viewers thus far. We have 1 like.
Okay.
And we haven't even started.
I love it.
This is the spirit and energy.
I'm good. I'm so glad with that. At least I know there's positive faces at the other side.
Definitely. And we have the chat box is open for anybody who wishes to ask questions during, after, in between. Yeah.
All right. So I can't see the chat boxes straight away because I've got my presentation open. So I'll have to go at the end and just have a look at the questions.
That's 100%. I can also send them to you via Skype, or I can read them to you and then you can answer them if you'd like.
Okay. So I'll do that at the end. I'll just check with the questions and then we'll see what I can see, what I can't see. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you to read them to me.
Okay, great. And you have the link to be able to access.
Yes, I do.
Okay. We've tried to be as prepared as possible.
Yeah, so far so good. So far we're doing really well.
Okay, I think we can start so long.
Okay, fabulous.
Okay, I'm gonna start recording now. Okay, so welcome to everyone that has joined us today. This is Aurora's first YouTube live workshop. Thanks to the changing environment, we've had to adapt the way we host events. So yes, welcome to a revolutionary way of presenting information. We're very excited to have everyone here today. We are hosting a personal finance workshop with Chenine host. And I just quickly like to do a little introduction with her. So Chenine has been in the financial industry since 2002, and she recently obtained her CFP, which I've Googled means Certified Financial Planner, from the University of Stellenbosch, so an alma mater. She's also a business owner and has served on the board of Business Women's Association in 2016, and she's completed her RE5, which is very impressive. And if that's not enough, she has worked with companies such as Sage Life, Alan Gray, Hollard, Momentum, Old Mutual, Sunlam, and a bunch of others as well. And she's been a sales manager at Old Mutual. She has owned the Sunlam Blue Star business franchise. And Chenine just basically believes in holistic financial planning for clients in such a way that she takes care of her clients' financial needs, and it covers things from medical aid to investments and risks, short-term, long-term insurance, all kind of things that make you keep your money safe. And that make you know what to do with it. So we're very, very honored that she will be able to join us today and host this workshop for us. We hope that you learn a lot from it. And if you have any questions now or before we start or during the workshop, you can just comment in the comment box next to the YouTube live video, and we will do a Q&A afterwards. So Chenine, that's over to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the introduction, Tarina. I really appreciate being here, and I hope that we can actually do something that's rewarding for you. It's no good us sitting here and then we waste your time, so I'm hoping that through your feedback, we carry on delivering and giving you something that's really worthwhile. My idea is actually just to give you some basic financial education right now. So this one, what we want to do is get more in depth. So if we do more, we'll just continue to get more in depth into the different aspects of financial planning. So for now, it's a really broad overview of basic financial education, but I'm hoping that I'm going to give you some good tips, good advice that you can actually do something practically until we do something next financial planning as we are right now, and as you are. We're not going to cover any products. Just want at this stage, we will eventually, but I'd like to just to do nothing about funds. As such, it's important just to get the basics right. You can ask questions either at the end, or you can filter the questions through to Tarina, and I'll try and see what I can answer. There was a question that came through initially. It was about stock picks, and so just before I start this, I just want to explain to you, I am a long-term broker. I'm a long-term investment broker, so don't do much on stocks. Maybe eventually I will get into something later on, like in quite a few episodes, if we carry on with this thing and if you guys all like it. But generally, I'm actually a long-term investment planner. I don't do short-term planning. I find that there's great risk. The opportunity to lose money is just too great, and I don't like taking chances with clients' money. They need to have money one day when they retire, for sure, and not run the risk of losing all their cash. So the first thing that I would like to discuss is about the 6 emotions that come with debt. There are obviously more, but this is the six main ones. The first one is denial. Putting your head in the sand and you pretend to live like as a spring. And I think that a lot of us live like that. And if not, when we're talking about our finances, even if you don't do it about some types of finances, if you get big debts maybe, then that's the time that you just put your head in the sand. So these are the 6 emotions that we need to worry about. We need to just monitor ourselves. It's obviously stress finances causes almost every person that I know stress. It doesn't matter what job you do, what department you're in, finances is stressful. So putting your head in your hands and doing nothing because you're too stressed, that's also an emotion that people tend to fall into. Fear, we've all felt fear at some point. The fear of how we're going to live, how we're going to get through the next month, how am I going to pay this money back? So I understand that you guys are students, and obviously you haven't had the experience of having, we hope, too much debt at this stage. I'm sure that you've watched your parents and those your loved ones around you, and you can understand how fear can really grip a person when it comes to your finances. You have to be careful about depression. Some people just can't cope emotionally and they feel drained. They stop eating, they stop sleeping, or they sleep too much. That often happens, I know, with students. And that's not always about finances, but these are things that we need to watch out for, not only for ourselves, but also for those that are around us. Anger. If sometimes we even get angry with the lenders that are lending us the money, and this anger is not healthy for us. It can ruin relationships. It can make physiological effects. You get migraines, stomach ache, heart disease. And then finally, when you do get things under control and you're managing to get a grip of your finances, you do have the relief. You feel free. You feel like your debt is becoming manageable. But it's a mere act of starting. You have to do something. No more putting your head in the sand. No more head in the hands and doing nothing because you're feeling too stressed. No more sleeping it away. We're going to hopefully put you on a journey of actually trying to create good habits, good ways, and give you something manageable to deal with when you're dealing with debt and finances. So I understand that you guys are students. Some of you are not in debt at the moment, which is great. But I'm hoping to give you the warning signs so that you know this is what's coming if you do choose to fall into the debt category or burden. The best thing that I can possibly suggest to you is start a budget. A simple monthly budget. I understand that some students, they feel that they don't really have any expenses. Some of you, I know, have got student debt. Some of your parents pay for your student costs, so it's not really that much of an issue. Some of you are staying with your parents. Some of you are living in your own apartment maybe. And it is a monthly budget is probably, whether you've got a small budget, whether you are heavy in debt, whether you don't have much debt at all. If you don't have a budget, you won't know how much you can put towards savings, how much must pay off what debt, where is your money going. I think all of us have got money and spent it and then realized where did it go. So following a monthly budget is very important. Yes, you can have a monthly budget and then never follow it. That's also not a plan. But if you can try and start getting disciplined about your monthly budget, it's probably the first stepping stone towards healthy financial planning. The next part that I actually want to go into is actually goal setting. I don't know if you've ever heard of the SMART plan or this SMART strategy. It's making your goals specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-framed. And I know some of these acronyms people think, it's just a waste of our time, but this one is really, you'll find it right through your career, right through business. They will come back to this SMART goal settings, making it specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-framed. Time-framed is very important. It's no use having a goal and there's no end to it. You need to say, for example, I really need to get out of my debt. So by the end of the year, I want to make sure that I'm out of my credit card debt. So it's specific. I'm saying specifically credit card debt or a specific account or student debt. I want to be out of my student debt. So if you can't do it within the year, then you say by the end of next year, my student debt must be clear. And you've got to keep that fresh in mind. It's got to be upfront in your mind so then you know that this is what's important to me. Stick it on your cupboard door if you want to. And you say, I'm going to do this by putting away an extra 200 Rand towards my debt every month to make sure that I bring the capital down. It doesn't help you saying to you, make an unattainable and saying, okay, I'm going to pay 1,000 Rand extra to my student loan when it's not possible. So make it realistic, make it attainable, and this is a really good, so just remember the SMART acronym. There's lots of goals that we have to look at in life. We've got for your own wellness. You've got emotional, environmental, financial, intellectual, your professional, physical, social, spiritual. So every one of these departments, you need to make your SMART acronym work for it. But I'm specifically here about financial with a crossover to emotional. Unfortunately, what happened was with most people is that the way that your parents spend money is probably the way that you see money. If your mom or your dad was a spendthrift and they wasted money and just were frivolous, you will find it very hard not to waste money. If your parents were, however, very tight-fisted with money, you will find that you're probably going to be more tight-fisted with money. So have a look to see if how you handle money. Is it the same as your parents? What mistakes did they make? And then what positive things did they do? And what can you learn from? You may need to choose. What are you going to keep out of it? And what aren't you going to keep? And so emotions and finances are tied closer together than what we realize. It's almost like eating. When you're going to eat, when you are depressed, you go into that fridge and look for the ice cream. We do the same thing with finances. When we are feeling down, even though when we've got no money, that's when we want to go shopping. So try and identify your emotions and your history with emotions and your parents' history with emotions, and see if you can try and find good ways to balance it and to grow from it. The next phase that I want to talk is actually life phases. I know that this might seem to you as a basic, simplistic thing. So why we worry about we students? We shouldn't be having to worry about life phases. But life phases carries you through. If you can see yourself in the phase that you're in, and then the next 3 phases that you're going towards. So say you're students, you're likely to have student debt. Maybe your parents are paying for it. Maybe they're not. You could be dependent on your parents financially. You might have a part-time that you're overwhelmed because your focus is split between work and studies. You want to travel the world. You want to make a positive impact on the community. And your long-term goals, you actually eventually want to start to have children and a family. You know that you need to budget. You know you need your financial education, and you need to learn how to manage debt. So this is where you're sitting at the moment. So what differences would make if I never look at the next stage, the next phase, which would be the young professional. So I did an idea before I go into the young professional. I just did a little bit of a calculator. Without going into products, did you know that a 2-year-old can take out a retirement annuity? So if you think about that, that's actually not a bad idea for a grandparent who wants to give their grandchild a retirement annuity. So say you start off at a 250 Rand a month retirement annuity for the grandchild. Okay. So we assume 40 years. They should at least be able to have a 40-year savings time. If they just we just worked on basic figures. So say your premium increases by 10% and the growth that you're going to get is on 10%, just to make things really rounded off for you. You will have, the child will have, by the time that they retire, 5.2 million Rand just on retirement savings from this 250 Rand. If you put away 500 Rand a month, and again for the 40 years, instead of having 5.2 million, you'll have 10 million. 10,400,000 if you want to be, and that's on a 10% growth. Okay. However, if you wait and you don't save now, because even now as a student, you're getting to the stage where you are just starting to get some sort of income. And if you're probably going to have at least 40 years to retirement. If you wait until you've only got 20 years, because you say, what am I saving for retirement now? What difference does it make to me? Well, if you wait and you've only got 20 years less to retirement, which is still a very long time, and sometimes it used to be that people only had 20 years, but now we are working later than what we used to, you would have to invest 6,700 Rand a month to get to the same value. And so if you think about that, instead of the 500 Rand a month, 6,700 Rand every month to get to the exact same value as what you would have if you had given yourself 40 years to save. So I understand when you're a young professional going into the next category, you're still paying off your student debt unless you've really sorted out yourself and managed to cut it, or your parents have helped you out. Some people, especially with COVID, are forced to have help their parents out in some cases due to unemployment, due to COVID, due to all sorts of circumstances happening. Maybe you've been forced to take out short-term loans that provide temporary relief, which even makes you further in debt. You might have to have got a second job. You're feeling overwhelmed. But if you think about the next level, you might just say to yourself, you know what, I am feeling overwhelmed, but I can do this or I can do that. And if I start saving now, one day, when I retire, I'm going to be in a different category to everybody else. And that is what good financial planning is. They say that only 6% of the population is actually able to retire sufficiently. So the trick of it, and that's where I say to you, I'm a long-term planner, the trick of it is to start young so that you don't have to put so much, you don't have to feel so overwhelmed, you don't have to kill yourself one day when you've only got 20 years to go, and you've got to take almost half your salary towards retirement. Start as young as you can, and it's good advice not only for yourself, but for your friends, your siblings, so keep that in mind. The other thing you should look at is obviously emergency funds. The reason most people go into debt is because when something goes wrong, like a COVID, like the car breaking down, like whatever emergency you might have, somebody gets sick. If you don't have funds available on the side, these things hit you very hard. So saving for the future is the best advice, although it's not easy, especially for a young person, especially for someone that is young enough that they can't see the future need. So you have to take my word for it. And the sooner that you start, the sooner you will be happy, the sooner you'll be more relieved, and the less stressed you'll be about your finances. The next phase is establish professional. You are feeling more independent, you've got resources, you're feeling a little bit self-sufficient, you might have to still worry about your parents and children, your income might fluctuate a little bit, especially if you've started your own business and you're self-employed, causing a bit of cash flow challenges. But overall, you're in a pretty good space, except that now education needs are starting to arise for the children. You're trying to balance this quality of time that you want to spend with your family versus the amount of time that your work requires. Health and fitness is obviously a big thing, and we are always looking at ways to make more money and that takes time. And money is time, they always say that, but it really is a bounce off. You have to really decide for yourself what is the most important to me, family or time. It's very difficult to have both or to create a balance. Can be done, but it is tricky. And then lastly is the retired professional. And that is exactly what I discussed with you earlier. Retirement seems miles away from you now. But if we can start doing creative, good, solid planning in the beginning, it won't be have such a big impact on you. And then you will have money where you can spend money on the things that you enjoy, the overseas trips that you maybe didn't take because you didn't have time, work commitments, which now at a retirement you can. But if you don't save properly, at retirement we'll be sitting either living off your children, which we all know that's the last thing that anybody wants to do. Somebody asked me about bank accounts and a student bank accounts and which is the best option to have. So a bank account can be an emergency fund. There's nothing wrong with a bank account because it's accessible. The only problem with a bank account as an emergency fund is sometimes it's too accessible. So maybe a savings portion attached to your bank account would work. I did try and look at different options on bank accounts over the different sectors. And so I looked at Standard, ABSA, FNB, Capitec, and the other one that I want you guys to look into is Old Mutual Bank. So most of them charged about R5 a month for admin fee for students. That Standard Bank MyMo account is R5, it's $4.95. The Capitec one is R5, Old Mutual Bank is R5. ABSA's one was R29 per month, and FNB's was R10 per month. ABSA's one you get some discounts and a bit of gym discounts and a bit of data, so I think that's why theirs is a little bit more. And all of them offer, or at least most of them offer swipes are free, and ATM fees are either zero or very low. With the Old Mutual Bank, you can also draw from the shops like Pick and Pay, Checkers, whatever. And so you can also do that with Capitec. And then they only charge you like R1.20, which is quite reasonable. So the reason I said to you about the Old Mutual Bank, apart from them having an app, I think most of the banks now have apps on their phones for online banking. But this has got a save account that's attached to it. And you can literally move money from your save to your smart account interchangeably on your app. It's actually, once you get into it, it's a very handy app to have. I personally have one because I use that for my debit orders. So it doesn't come off my main account. I move it into Old Mutual Bank. It's easy for me to monitor what debit orders I've got. So that's something to consider. There was something else I wanted to discuss with you. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. If you can have a look at your Old Mutual Bank account. Oh yes, that was the other thing is that some of the banks, they require, if you are between the age of 18 and 25, they require your parents to have an account with them. I know that I think it's F&B requires you as your parents to have an F&B account, or at least on online banking with F&B. So if you want to be independent and you don't want to have to have that commitment or that to prove where your parents are, then maybe one of the other options would work better for you. The other question that we had was about credit score and what you should look at with the credit score. How do you make sure that you create a good credit score for yourself? I thought that was a really good question for before you make bad credit score, the things that you should look at. So making your payments on time, we all know is the best way to go. Don't be late, make payments on time. But it actually counts for 35% of your credit score, which is an important thing to note. So even if it's a day early, rather do that than a day late. It makes a massive difference. Pay your credit cards first. If you show lots of regular payments on your credit cards first and they keep the balances as low as possible, it improves your rating. And they also, credit cards have the highest interest rates, so it's a good idea to pay them first anyway. If at all possible, avoid going to court. I know that that's the last thing on your mind, but having any type of court order damages against your name is hugely damaging to your credit score. And they keep these remarks on your credit score that other companies can look at for a long time, sometimes 5 years. So look at that carefully, make arrangements before you get into that predicament. Don't be brave about taking on too much debt. I would suggest that you need to have a very wise stance and a look at your finances. Even if the companies are offering you more loans, opportunities, and they say, oh, but you qualify for this and you qualify for that, you know in your heart what you qualify for, and you know what you are comfortable with paying. Don't overexert yourself, because it will only bite you. What happens, it's a cycle that we go through. When we're going through a problem and we feel like we need the money, we get a loan and we start paying that off. And then something happens in life and we get another loan. At the end of the day, we've got so much debt that we can't get more loans. So before you get into, and then we still have to cope. And we do, and people do cope even then. So before you get into the stage where you're so overwhelmed with debt, try and find other avenues so that you're not getting deeper and deeper in the debt cycle that's just going to kill you at the end. Keep your credit limits high and your due amounts low. It obviously stands to reason, but this is what the credit companies look at. They look at it as how much can you have and how much did you take? Did you take the maximum that you can have, or did you take only half of what you can have? And that counts in your favor. So when you do want to buy a house, when you want to buy a car, those are the things that they're looking at. Out of the 14, this is on number 6 now, closed unused credit card accounts. If you're not going to use it again and you've paid off your debt and you've learned the hard way that you don't want this debt, cut it up. Close the account and cut up the card. It is only a temptation, and it's not a good temptation. It's very hard to discipline yourself to say, okay, I've got it there just in case I need it, but I'm going to try not to use it, because invariably you're going to end up using it. Keep credit inquiries to a minimum. I don't know if you know this, but if you every time you request the credit status, it actually has it counts for like 10% on your credit status score. So try and avoid checking to see what your score is on a system. I know that you can do clear score, and you should find out, and that is probably the last one I'm going to say to you, find out where you are sitting at the moment, because even whether you get the loan or not, it's counting against you on your credit score. Don't try and go through your debts from one card to another. So don't take out a loan and then take out another loan to pay this one, so you've got the second one. Don't mix and match it and jump around. If you've got a loan, pay it off, then move on to the next one. Or hopefully none at all. Credit repair agencies can cost you thousands. Sometimes to have your name taken off, it can cost you like 5,000 rand. And the credit agency, if you blacklisted, it doesn't come off immediately once you've paid your debt. It can take 3 to 6 months to come off, and then obviously that's affecting you. If you're actually forced to go on to these debt counselors, and you want to take an insurance product or buy a house, they ask you that question: are you under any sort of financial management system? And it definitely counts against you. So be careful to go there. Rather try and do, as you are now, some financial study, learn how to manage your finances, do your budget, managing it carefully, because if you go to outside help like a debt company, it does count against you in a huge way, and you still have to try and get that thing off your record. Avoid using credit card accounts, especially the revolving type, where they let you pay back in your own time. So just the credit that you owe, or the debt that you owe, is just revolving. So it's very hard. It's very high interest rates, and it's very hard to get rid of it. The other weird thing that is something to note is that no credit history can also be bad for you. So everybody thinks, okay, I've never had credit history. I have never borrowed money. I don't owe money. I don't loan money. I've never taken out a loan on anything. It's actually also bad for you, because the banks can't see that you've got any record of paying on time. So it counts to about 15% to say, all right, even if you bought a radio on hire purchase, at least that's the date that you started going on to the credit record. And if you pay a small item that you can easily pay for, that is actually a better way, and only one item, that is a better way to manage your credit score, because it gives the banks a history. If you don't have any history, they've got nothing to work on, and then they see it as inaccurate. So it counts against you. So believe it or not, having a little bit of credit is actually a good thing, but not too much, and certainly not something unmanageable. And your partner's credit thing, if you're married, does actually can affect you as well. So make sure that your partner is also not going crazy and spending things away and above their means, because this can, especially on home loans, can account against you. If you do lay in trouble, don't wait for the creditors to contact you. Contact them first. It's better if you communicate. That goes to standard with people. It goes with institutions. It goes with any corporate thing. People like communication. They'll work around you. They'll help you. They'll do what they can for you, but communicate. Don't hide. If you hide, things get just sour. If you're in trouble, speak. They will try and make a plan for you. And then lastly, as I said to you, it's not good to get your credit report too many times, because it does count on your name. But get it now, so that you, and there's lots of credit companies. Clearscore.com, for example, is there. They advertise all the time. And to know where you start, because you don't know where you are or how good your score is unless you actually get a report. So that's my advice on scoring. Okay. There is something called good debt and bad debt, and that's the next thing I want to discuss with you. Long-term debt that's difficult to access, like your bond or your car finance, they're actually called good debt. Look, a car is always a liability. It's not an asset, because it deteriorates. A house appreciates. It's good debt to have, but a car is something that you're going to need to use to get around anyway. However, it does still, a car debt, they do pile up next to bonds to say that it is actually good debt. Just make sure you don't have a balloon payment. You're not in the residual trap. Balloon payment, for those that don't know, is that sometimes you can buy a car and then you say, okay, I'm not going to pay for the whole car over the normal 5-year term. I'm going to have a balloon payment that I need to make that they refinance at the end of the period. So it makes your monthly amounts cheaper now. But obviously, after 5 years, you're still paying off your car for the next 2 or 3 years. Okay, so your house, for example, the reason it's good debt is because you can rent it out, get good income out of it. And your car, for example, you can do an Uber, you can have it does create the ability to earn money if you needed to. And that's probably why they label it as good debt. Bad debt is obviously more easy to come by. It's credit cards, retail accounts, short-term loans, and it's the main reason for most stresses and debt problems. They say don't use your gold card now versus your golden years. So be careful not to make debt your whole life, and that's what 90% of the population does. And then later on, that there's no money for retirement. I'm going to come to an end soon, but I want to say to you, I would suggest that we try together to help you become serious about your finances. Pay yourself first. Learn how to invest. Put the time and effort into it. It will help you for the rest of your life. There's some education things that you can learn later in life. But finances, if you don't learn early as a student, before you start bringing in good money, how to manage your finances and to change your emotional things that affect the way that you spend money and the way that you do money, will carry through for you for your whole life. So put the time and the effort in. Get serious about it. Learn how to invest. Spend less money than you earn always. Make a point to say, that's my rule. I've got this amount, and then after that, I say no. So you need to become self-disciplined when it comes to money if you're serious about your finances. If you want to live one day well off, you can do that. We waste a lot of money. Most people waste much more money than they even anticipate that they waste. So try to become disciplined in that area so that you can be that one step ahead. Keep your finances very organized. Get your files organized. Even if you feel like, what am I going to file? I've got nothing now. I'm only a student. Start your process. Get your practice into place. Get your budget going. Get a file going for all your expenses and your receipts. It's good habits. So don't see it as worth nothing. It's worth a lot. But don't be a slave to money. Money is not everything. People are more important than money. Your family is more important than money. But that doesn't mean that you need to waste. Have an emergency fund. You will thank me one day if you have a good emergency fund. Try and get at least 3 months of either your income or a set amount. You can decide up front to say, this is what I feel comfortable with as an emergency fund. If I had this amount in my bank account and something went wrong, I wouldn't make myself so stressed, overwhelmed, depressed, because I've got a backup. So decide on the amount, what suits you, what you feel necessary, put it aside and don't touch it. It's almost like you don't have that money unless an emergency arrives. Always try and find ways to make money. I know that sounds like we just said to you now 5 seconds ago, don't be a slave to money. But if you can create ideas for passive income, it will keep you in good stead forever. So during this COVID time, you'll find that there's a lot of new ideas coming up. I have heard of young kids making much more money than adults their whole life doing. And that is just because they bother to spend some time to think of plans outside the box that the old generation have not thought of, that's making them a fortune. And you can do that as a student. So try and think, how can I create passive income now? Passive income is things like rental income, where you've already paid off the bond. Okay. But I'll give you an example. So that one is unattainable for most students because you don't have the money for the bond in the first place. So how am I going to get passive income from that? Many years ago, I had a friend that bought, I don't know if you, it just shows my age, but these machines where outside the cafe, the kiosks that had, you could get that teddy bear out. So he bought these machines for at the time, it was like 1,000 or 2,000 rand for the machine. He had eventually about 10 of them. And they were just raking in the money because every month all he had to do was tinker to make sure that nothing broke and put more toys in. And he budgeted to see, okay, this is how much the toys are going to cost that he bought cheap. Put them in there. He made a lot of money out of it. And it really cost him almost no time. So now that's old-fashioned way of doing passive income. There's a lot of internet ideas. Be careful of scammers though. But think out the box. What are your parents doing? Is there a loophole? What are your friends doing? What are your cousins doing that you think that maybe, okay, you know what, they're doing this, I can actually sideline this and bring myself some passive income in. You might actually just surprise yourself. Know how to risk it and leverage it. So there's always a risk with everything. Sometimes when you put money into, you want to start a business or start something to get passive income in, you do have to put in a little bit of an investment. Make sure that you've looked at the figures to say, I am going to put in X amount, but I have the potential to earn this amount, but I'm not putting in so much that if I lose it, it's going to become a problem for me. And use it to try and solve problems in the world. There's lots of problems, and if you can find a way to solve a problem, thousands will support you. There's a rule, and this is the last rule I'm going to give you, is the 50-30-20 rule. Basically, if you can spend 50% of your after-tax pay, no matter what your pay is, whether it's student pay, whether it's waitressing, whether it's normal working that you're doing, 50% in your pay, after-tax pay on your needs, 30% on your wants, and 20% on savings. You'll never look back. Well, I hope that was informative for you. I'm going to try and see if I can find any questions. Let me see what I can do here. No. Tarina, am I doing fine? Can you see any questions there?
Yes, I can quickly read them to you if that's fine with you.
Okay. Yeah, please.
Okay, so the first question asks what the best way is to get an annuity, or where do you apply for one?
Okay, so any insurance company can give you an annuity, so you can get it from, shame, I see it's quite dark here, I should have put the light on. Any insurance company you can buy an annuity from, Sanlam, Mutual, Liberty, Hollard. So it's actually an annuity, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go into details next time exactly what an annuity offers you and how the tax works with an annuity. But you can choose any company. If you want to send me a link afterwards with your details on, I will send you information so that you can apply for one and you can decide. The one thing I want to say to viewers, don't be scared to try and get an annuity and say, okay, I can only afford this amount. It's better you start with a low figure and work a plan and manage it, and you can increase later, than being too afraid because you think to yourself, okay, well, I can't actually afford a lot of money, so I won't buy. So if you send me your details, I'll send you some information and you can take it from there.
Okay, and then a second question would be, what would be a good start-off amount to put away every month into a savings account as a student and as a young professional?
If you can start, obviously if you're earning no income, then it's very tricky. If you can start between 350 and 500 Rand, most of the products, those are the minimum amount. So it's either 350 or 500, somewhere around there for minimum amounts. I know there's sometimes, like Sanlam's got a 200 and something Rand one at the moment. But so it really depends on what, because you've also got tax-free savings you can look at. But for a retirement annuity, I think the cheapest one at the moment is Sanlam. And I think it's 250 that they've got, or 200 Rand they've got. I know they had a special offer, otherwise it's 350. So that's kind of the figures that you're looking at. But the sooner you start, the better.
Okay, and then somebody asked, what advice would you give to a young person who has been working for about 3 or 4 years, but who is struggling with debt, and also who earns a very small salary?
So I have seen in my lifetime people that earn tiny salaries and make lots of money. It's actually how you manage that money. So, and if you can try, the trick is, first of all, do your budget, write everything down as clear as possible, and then start managing the money. Say, this is my debt, this is what I need to get on, this is the one that's causing me the most. But think for debt, if you can do, for example, you take away the one that is the smallest, so you're paying the highest interest, but it's the smallest debt. Then you cut, once that's paid off, you cut it away, and you don't have that one. Then you go to the next smallest, and then you cut it away, and then you don't have that one. Eventually, you've only got one or two that's that you're paying off, and you can pay bigger amounts.
Okay. And
I hope that also.
Yeah. And then the second last question: how or where do you find out what your credit score is?
I think clearscore.com is probably your best one, but there are free ones on the internet. So I think you can just go on the internet and Google it. I don't think that they charge you to do that either. I'm not sure. I know that there's some companies that don't charge you at all.
Okay. And then the last question is, what personal items should I be insuring? Is insuring my phone a waste of money? And what about a car and a laptop?
Okay, a laptop and a car is very important to insure because you'll cry big tears. For me specifically, I do insurance on cars, laptops, phones, everything. I find I don't insure my phone. And the reason I don't insure my phone is because you pay it's about 140 a month, roughly, depending on what phone you've got, for your phone every month. So I personally make a commitment for myself to say, if I break my phone or drop it, or if I'm negligent with my phone, then I have to have a cheapie for the next, until my contracts run out, until I get a new contract. If you don't have a contract and you say, look, it's actually worth me paying that 140, it's going to be a choice that you make for yourself.
Okay. Thank you so much.
But it's a rough figure for 140. Yeah. Chenine, do you want me to turn the button? I can see that nobody can see me, and I couldn't see up until now.
Yeah.
If you give me a second, sorry.
Yeah, go for it. This is a dog. They're joining us.
Sorry. I couldn't see a picture of myself up until now because the screen was above me, and when I turned around I thought, oh no, my word, it's dark.
Yeah. Okay, those are the last of the questions. Do you have any other advice or last words you'd like to give to students who are trying to sort out their finances?
The best thing that I can say to you is do a budget, write it down. And don't be afraid of finding a plan. I'm happy to help anybody that wants some help. So if I just give you tidbits of advice as we go along, Terry, you can give my details out to anybody that's asking. And first of all, I just want to explain to you how a broker works. A broker doesn't charge you yourself. There's no fee. For example, if I help you with something, I don't charge you a fee to assist you. The only thing that you do pay, if you take out a product, they get commission. But it's not a fee that they charge. So there's a lot of back help. So speak to someone. Sometimes is anybody that you can identify with, that you're comfortable with. Let them help you, because that's what they're there for.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chenine. Just a heads up for anybody, if you want to get into contact with Chenine or just have questions after, please feel free to either contact Aurora through our YouTube or Facebook or Instagram pages, or you can contact us and we can put you into contact with Chenine. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for doing this, Chenine. We look forward to having more workshops with you, and we really hope that everybody learned a little bit of something from this.
Thank you very much. It was lovely being here, and thank you guys, and please don't be shy to talk to me. I'm really here for you to help you.
Thank you so much, Chenine. Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.